The Sustainable Development Goals are a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. The goal 6 among these focuses on clean water and sanitation, that is ensuring availability and sustainable management of water and sanitation for all. Would Ghana be able to meet this target by 2030?
As at the end of 2020, we had provided water to 62.47% of the populations residing in rural communities and small towns. We estimate that those populations will be around 22, almost 23 million people. And we have been able to serve 14.9 million people, leaving a gap of about 8.6 million who are currently unserved. So that is the coverage. And we've done this by constructing close to 30,000 boreholes with hand pumps and close to 1,300 pipe schemes, across the country. You asked whether we'll be able to achieve the SDG goals. It depends on which perspective you are coming from. The figures I've mentioned to you are what we call provider-based statistics. In other words, the water utility organizations or the water providers, Ghana Water Company and the CWC, we have our own homegrown method of calculating coverage. And we, for instance, in CWC, we say that you are said to be covered if the water facility is on your premise, or if it is not your premise, you walk in and out for 30 minutes to be able to get the water, or for a distance of 500 meters. So if you walk more than 30 minutes in and out, it means that you are not covered by the water facility. Then there is another form of statistics that we call user-based statistics, or some people say administrative data. It's normally collected by the Statistical Service with the help of some UN agencies. And in that with that kind of data, they normally talk about access. Do you have access? We talk about coverage. They talk about access to water. And so because it's a survey, when they come to you, they ask you, do you have water? They say yes. Where do you get the water from? I get it from tanker service. I get it from a borehole. I get it from Ghana Water. All they are interested in is, do you have access to water? So that statistic is usually higher than the provider-based statistics. And so in terms of our trajectory towards achievement of the SDG, if you are looking at the user-based or administrative data generated by Statistical Service, then we are likely to be there by the end of 2030. But the provider-based statistics, which is what we generate from within the coverage, we are not likely to achieve the SDG goal. If population growth outstrips the rate of inflow of investment into the sector, then you are likely to have a stagnation in coverage. And what we are currently experiencing is that there's population growth, we all know about that. There's stagnation in investment, if not a decline, because most of the donor agencies have withdrawn their grants and concessional loans because we attain the middle income status, as you may be aware. And then the factor that is most challenging so far as coverage is concerned is the rate of breakdown of the water facilities. A number of the water facilities that were provided by government have broken down. And the coverage is calculated using functional water systems. So if you even have a water system in your community, and at the end of the year we are calculating the coverage, we will not add that non-functional facility to the coverage. So in effect, what it means is that this 62% coverage that we are talking about is just for functional facilities. So in nominal terms, we may have so many facilities on the ground, but they don't add up to the coverage because they have broken down, because they are not functioning. And we did a study in 2013. The results was published in 2014. We showed that at every point in time, 39% of the boreholes with hand pumps do not work. The remaining close to 60% that works. It is only 10% that deliver basic service. In other words, they meet some benchmarks. The benchmark of quality, is the water you are drinking safe? Is it free from contaminants? The benchmark of access, I told you about the 30 minutes walk. Do you walk more than 30 minutes to get the water? The benchmark of reliability. In a year, how many times do you get the water? Do you get it for a minimum of 95% of the time? You see, then we talk about quantity. If you go to the water station, are you able to get the minimum of 20 liters per day that each person is supposed to get by our standards and guidelines? If you don't get that, then you are not delivering basic service. And only 10%. So it means that the remaining 50-40% are on ice. I mean, they are just delivering suboptimally. And it's the same, the story is the same for the pipe schemes. You see, so the systems are breaking down at a very rapid rate, a rate higher than the rate of investment inflow into the sector. And then also I've told you about population growth. So if we're able to find a strategy of managing the water systems that government has already provided very well, so that at every point in time, if there are 100 water systems on the ground, all of them are working. And then we also have investment to be able to serve the remaining 38% of the population that do not have access at all. Then we'll be making progress. But as for population growth, we can't control it.
Yes, it's possible, but from where I sit, the conditions under which it is possible, I don't see how we can fulfill it. So for instance, if you take sanitation, the sanitation SDG, which is to get managed sanitation to every household, which means the sanitation facility you're using in your house is not only improved, but it is not shared by any other person. And that your waste has also no way of contaminating the environment. With this, we need like $11 billion to be able to deal with sanitation alone if we want everyone to achieve. $11 billion will amount to approximately, let's say $1.1 billion per annum into sanitation alone. The whole water sector, put Ghana Water, put CWA, put everyone together, we can't even reach 500 million. Let alone talk about sanitation alone, taking that. For the water side to be fulfilled, that means everybody having their water in their compounds, not to travel 100 meters to a stand post to go and fetch. We need like $640 billion, which means on average more than $6.5 billion per annum to invest in Ghana Water Company Limited, in Community Water and Sanitation Agency, in order to achieve that. It's possible. Ghana can make it, but I don't see government just allocating this amount of money to these institutions. So theoretically it's possible, but in practice it's not possible.
We've made progress on lower pace thanks to sanitation coverage from what we attained under the SDGs. So from 15% in 2015, we got into, I believe, over 23% in terms of overall coverage for sanitation. And we need universal coverage or comprehensive coverage by 2030. That gives you a sense of what we need to cover or the length we need to cover to be able to achieve the SDGs for sanitation. I don't think it's beyond us as a country to achieve that. I mentioned earlier the shift in focus or the prioritization of household toilets at the moment, which I believe is the first step in it, in everything, acknowledging that there is a problem and then having a good idea of what the solution should be. By the moments, in terms of from the government and from sector practitioners, there is a clear direction in terms of, how we proceed with that. We do not have any other focus except on household toilets. Of course, how we do this in general still remains challenging. But I believe once there is the understanding that we need to push household toilets, as much as we can to be able to attain the SDGs. 9 years seems not too long a time, but I believe if we are able to get all that we are doing right, if we're able to coordinate things right and make sure we have concerted effort, I believe we can have the level of skill and the speed of implementation that would get us to achieving our SDG objectives for sanitation. So in answering your question, I would say I don't think it's beyond us to achieve our SDGs. With what government is doing, there should be a lot more focus on bringing in the private sector. What guarantees do you need to give to the private sector for them to see value in investing in household toilets or in providing such sanitation services? And of course, when it comes to water, in terms of our overall water coverage, we've done significantly better than we have in sanitation. But the focus now is how do we move from the initial limited access that we provided? How do we make sure we move that up to ensuring universal basic coverage? Now, there's also a shift in terms of how do we give access by putting in place communal assistance, public standpipes, and the like. But now there is a lot more focus on how do you make sure you have a lot more household connections, at the community level. So I believe these are all good interventions or, policy directives that would, in the end, inure towards attaining or achieving our SDG objectives. So long as we keep ensuring that we follow and strictly implement what we've set out to do, have an understanding of the level of investments needed, the level of capacity needed, and ensuring that we commit to this objective. I believe we can be able to attain that. Nine years seems, a bit short given the enormity of the challenge. But I believe if we're able to get all that we have planned, all that is being implemented, if that is coordinated well, I believe we can be able to have the level of skill needed to reach our objective.